It's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is excel. And I want to quickly express my gratitude to Luis, who suggested today's verb. So now let's take a look at how the verb excel gets used. When we look at the definitions or meanings of this verb, there are two pretty common ones. The first is to mean to be very good or proficient in a particular activity or a subject. So many times in connection to our studies, we hear certain people as being described as excelling in a particular subject or topic. It could be connected to language learning. It might be a piece of it. Perhaps you excel in reading in another language. A second way the verb excel gets used is to mean to show superiority or to surpass others. So here, it's not only that you are very good at something, but you're better than others, and you're able to demonstrate that in a particular activity or subject, you are superior. For now, you should know that excel is a regular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, we're going to double our ending consonant before adding our suffixes that start with a vowel letter. So here, to make the progressive form of the verb, I'm going to add a second L before I add ing, and that forms excelling. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are going to require that same spelling change. I'm going to double the L before I add ed. Now our base verb, excel, ends in a voiced L sound. And this means when I add the past tense ending, I'm going to make a D sound. But I'm not going to add an extra syllable as I say it. So it should sound like this. Excelled. Excelled. Okay. Now you might be happy to know we just have two phrasal verbs to discuss, and you're going to notice that the meanings here are very similar to what we've already discussed. So one phrasal verb you might encounter is to excel at. Again, this means someone is really good, they're very proficient in some particular activity or subject. An example of this in a sentence might be, he has excelled at learning several languages. Some people are very talented and able to kind of pick up, learn several types of languages that sometimes they're connected or related, but not always. Some people, we say, kind of have an ear for it. They're able to get those subtle differences and build their vocabulary and be really successful communicators in multiple languages. Another phrasal verb you will encounter is to excel in. And again, this is noting someone is performing at a really high level. They're performing very well in some area. An example of this might be, she has excelled in art since elementary school. Right? She's performed well. Maybe she's won some contests related to that particular subject. Now, let's move on and do a little more verb tense practice today. Let's review the past perfect and the simple present. We'll start with the past perfect. We use this verb tense to note that a particular action occurred before a certain point in the past or before another action in the past. To make past perfect sentences, our sentence structure is going to stay the same no matter what our subject is. So in the affirmative, we're going to have our subject, we're going to use had, and then we're going to use the participle form of the verb. And again, because this is a regular verb, the participle is the same as the past tense. Let's take a look at an example sentence. She had excelled in academics from an early age. Now, with a sentence like this, I might be wondering, did something change? Did something happen? Because that had excelled is really noting, right, that this occurred before something else. Now, if I want to make a negative past perfect sentence, again, I always start with my subject. I use had not, or the contraction hadn't, and then the participle form of the verb. Here's another example. He hadn't excelled on road courses or street circuits until this season. I saw a sentence very similar to this one that I have in my notes here, and it was describing a particular race car driver. And the article, again, was noting that in prior seasons, there were certain types of races, so those on roads or what are called street circuits, those hadn't gone well. But, right, now this sentence is indicating that things are going better this particular season. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the past perfect. To do this, I start with had, then I have my subject, and then the participle form of the verb. Here's the last example. Had he excelled in anything before moving to our school? This might be a question a teacher, an administrator asks of a parent. Maybe we have a new student transferring in. They're trying to understand, what was this child good at doing? Maybe there's a certain topic or subject where they were really strong. They might be able to use that to kind of build his confidence, maybe help him make friends, help him transition into this new school. Now let's move on and talk about and make some sentences in the simple present. We use the simple present to talk about our habits and routines. These are actions that repeat again and again with some regularity. Okay? It doesn't mean they happen every day, but something could happen once a month or even once a year. And the thing about the simple present is that we need to pay attention to our subject. In affirmative sentences, if our subject is I, you, we, or they, I just use the base verb. No suffixes, no special endings to the verb. But if my subject is he, she, or it, then I need to add an S to the end of this verb. You can see that in my example sentence. She excels in visual storytelling. So this might be storytelling through video, through pictures, something that we can see. So here we're describing somebody who's talented at. They maybe have a gift for telling stories in this particular way. Now, if I want to make a negative sentence in the simple present, again, I must pay attention to my subject. If the subject is I, you, we, or they, I'm going to use do not and then the base verb. You might also encounter the contraction, don't, and then the base verb. But if the subject is he, she, or it, you're going to use does not and then the base verb. You might see the contraction doesn't, like my example sentence here. This new model doesn't excel anywhere and is not worth the exorbitant price tag. Again, I borrowed a little bit of wording here from a story that was reviewing a particular new model of car. And so the writer here had driven this car for a while and then was offering his or her opinion about it. And here, this particular person thought there's nothing really special about this. This car isn't really good in a particular situation, or maybe some of the features aren't really excellent. And on top of it all, this car is really expensive. So the writer's advice was to not buy this particular car. So we're saying there's just nothing that's really great about it. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple present. To do this, we start with do or does, whichever form matches our subject, that subject comes next, and then we use the base verb. I always like to point out to my students, notice The only time I'm adding an S to the end of the verb is in the affirmative when my subject is he, she, or it. I'm not adding S to the end of the verb in the negative or in my yes or no questions. Let's take a look at the last example. Do you excel at new things right away? There are some people that can pick up new things, new skills, new activities, in really kind of quick and easy ways. For some people, it can take a lot of time, right? So here we're sort of asking about someone's habit. Generally, as you're learning new things, do you do it quickly? Okay. Now, let's move on and spend a few moments talking about some words that are related to our verb excel. The first word we're going to talk about is a noun form of this word. So excel with a capital E is the name of a spreadsheet editor. You might think of this as like a computer program that was developed by Microsoft. So I realize my description here might not be very good or very helpful, but if you look at the picture in the bottom part of my screen here, you can see kind of these little boxes. Some of them have different colors, but many of them have numbers. This is used in a number of fields and professions. It's used a lot in accounting and finance. It can be used with data, managing data as well. This particular program or spreadsheet editor has been very popular for many years. So the way you might see the word Excel used, again with a capital E, could be connected to job postings, advertisements, or you might hear someone say a sentence like, we need someone who is proficient in Excel. Okay? Now that might sound kind of silly because we've just talked about that verb excel meaning you're good at something, and proficient also means kind of knowledgeable about something, to be good at something here. But here we're describing we need somebody who knows how to use this particular spreadsheet, right? Who can manipulate and manage data in spreadsheets. Now, another related word you might encounter is the noun excellence. This is the quality of being outstanding or extremely good at something. An example of this might be, students will be recognized for academic excellence next week. So, noting they are performing at a very high level. Another related word that probably won't surprise you is the adjective excellent, right? This means something is extremely good, it's outstanding. An example of this in a sentence might be, your performance on the last test was excellent. I love being able to say sentences like this to my students. I just had that experience very recently. One last thing for us to talk about, and that again is the word excellent, but sometimes instead of being used as an adjective, it can be used as an exclamation. Right? Something someone says with a lot of enthusiasm generally in their voice. When people use it as an exclamation, they're generally indicating that they are approving of something or they are very pleased by something. I want to give you an example of how that is used, and I think it would be most common as part of a conversation. So I want you to pretend one friend tells another friend, I got us front row tickets for the concert, right? Somebody we love, right? Another person might respond back to that friend, excellent, right? They're showing their approval, they're showing their excitement for this particular thing. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And again, a special thank you to Luis for making this suggestion. Have a great day.